Hi, I'm Kenji Darby. I'm an international instructor for Learning Tree, and I'm a cybersecurity subject matter expert. Today, I want to talk to you a little bit about the risk management framework. At Learning Tree, we have courses 213 and courses 251, which is the NIST cybersecurity framework, some for the federal government, and also just for the commercial sector. All right. So, what I want to talk to you today about is the six-step process of RMF. All right. So, I'm going to draw my boxes here. Step one, step two, step three, step four, step five, and step six. All right. So, step one is system categorization. All right. Step two is control selection. Step three is control implementation. Step four is control assessment. Step five is the authorization step. And step six is monitoring, also referred to as continuous monitoring. So I'm just going to put monitoring here, put the box back. Monitoring. All right. So why is this important? It's important because if you know, if you can become a SMER or proficient in RMF, you can get a job anywhere, right? Not just in the federal government sector, but the commercial sector. But also, employers and qualifiers and the agencies are looking for those that have qualifications in the risk management framework. It is a mandatory framework that is a requirement through FISMA, through the Department of Defense, and all agencies must have um, utilize the risk management framework. So, what is the risk management framework? It is a framework in which we manage risk. There are guides and processes in which we must follow in order to show that our organization and our systems can maintain a suitable security posture. All right. So, what happens in the categorization step? So, we're looking at confidentiality, integrity, and availability, and we look into the impact, maybe from the data. What would be the impact if that data was somehow breached? Okay. What we're looking at, well, what if also maybe it's the data that's inside the system or it's data that's processed by the system, and it's a combination of those two. All right. So we're going to look at confidentiality, integrity, and availability. All right. And we're also going to utilize our resources, FIPS 199, and in this 860, these are guidelines that help us make judgments about the data or the data types that we're utilizing. Okay. Also, we're going to select our controls. And we're going to select our controls. We're going to look at FIPS 199. I'm sorry. We're going to look at FIPS 200, which are the minimum security standards. Okay. And we're going to look at NIST 860. I apologize. NIST 853, Rev 4. And just for consistency, when we categorize our system, we're looking at FIPS 199 and NIST 860. All right. Now, when we implement our controls, right? And before we go to implement, when we select our controls, we're going to tailor our controls because some systems are different than others. So even though we have a minimum control set, we're going to tailor those controls specifically for our system. Okay. Now, when we implement our controls, we also refer to this as a self-assessment. So some controls are going to be compliant, some controls are going to be non-compliant, some controls are going to be partially compliant. So in our implement step, we're going to discuss the implementation of these controls. All right. So I like to call this as a self-assessment. And the implementation of RMF, you could be find guidance also in the NIST 837. Okay. Now, assessment, when we get into the assessment portion, we're going to talk about how controls are assessed. And this can be from an independent validator, this can be from a security control assessor. And ultimately, once we get to authorizing, which would be the role of the authorizing official, we'll talk about how the controls are authorized. Now, once the controls go through an assessment, you're going to learn about the plan of action and milestones. And this is our risk repository and how we document our risk that's in the system, right? Now, before I go further, this talks about authorization and continuous monitoring. I must also say that this process in the real world, the application of this process can take up to a year. But real life, we may not always have up to a year to implement this process. But with these techniques that I will teach you and impart to you, that it can make you more efficient and more proficient, and that you can understand these concepts and you can navigate the RMF process as a professional. So I want to take my experience, my expertise, and impart it to you. All right. So in an assessment phase, this is where we're going to find out from an independent or an external validator if the controls are compliant or non-compliant, and those controls are going to be documented in our system security plan. All right. Now, going back to step one, it's important to note that if you've never developed a system security plan, and this class is not always necessary for novices, but it's also necessary for those of you who've been in the cybersecurity field for a while, but just need not quite sure of RMF, or those of you who have never been through step 1 through step 6 of the entire process. This would be a phenomenal course for you. All right. So when we're going through step 1 through step 6, this is really the building of the foundation of our system security plan, right? And our system security plan, as I like to say, it's a plan of a plan of a plan. And if you're looking at those 18 control families, the system categorization is the single most important aspect and process of the entire process. It's going to drive all of the other process. All right. Now, when you get to the authorizing sections, there are components and functions and process within the authorizing section that would essentially, that an AO and an SCA would say they accept the risk of your vulnerabilities. Okay. And then next, we're going to go into continue to monitoring after your system's been authorized. And this is a continuous effort. All right. So sometimes once your system continues monitoring, you're going to look at your scans. Your scans can be looked at weekly, they can look at monthly, they can look at quarterly. But we're going to go through this entire process that you can understand the risk management framework from a SME, so that you can go back to your organization, you can implement it, you can implement those best practices, you can learn how to manage those external stakeholders, and your project can always be on time and always be on budget. This is Kenji Darby. I thank you. I'm an international instructor for Learning Tree International, and I would love to teach you. Thank you.